Shalom, I want to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Ha-Rakah-Kadash. Double honors goes out to the elder apostles of Great Millstone for teaching us this truth. Also, I want to acknowledge all the Akyam who are pushing this truth with sincerity, okay? So, Spirit's got me in 1 Samuel chapter 10. And I'm just going to go ahead and start. This is 1 Samuel 10 and 1. Then Samuel took a vial of oil and poured it upon his head and kissed him and said, Is it not because of Yahweh hath anointed thee to be captain over his inheritance? So let's precept that, Deuteronomy 32:9. For Yahweh's portion is his people, Jacob is the lot of his inheritance. Alright, so the inheritance of the Lord is Israel, Jake. And in this chapter, it's talking about Saul being the anointed one and to be captain over his inheritance. The Lord's inheritance again is Israel, the Israelites, Jacob. All right. Verse 2. When thou art departed from me today, when thou shalt find two men by Rachel's sepulchre in the border of Benjamin at Zelzah, and they will say unto thee, The asses which thou wentest to seek are found, and lo, thy father have left the care of the asses, and sorroweth for you, saying, What shall I do for you, my son? Then shalt thou go on forward from thence, and thou shalt come to the plain of Tabor, and there shall meet thee three men going up to Yahweh to Bethel, one carrying 3 kids, and another carrying 3 loaves of bread, and another carrying a bottle of wine. And 3 kids is dealing with 3 small goats. All right, verse 4. And they will salute thee, and give thee 2 loaves of bread, which thou shalt receive of their hands. After that, thou shalt come to the hill of Yahweh, where is the garrison of the Philistines. And it shall come to pass, when thou art come thither to the city, that thou shalt meet a company of prophets coming down from the high place, with a psaltery and a tabret and a pipe and a harp before them, and they shall prophesy. All right, let's go to the precept. 1 Samuel 13:3. And all Israel heard say that Saul had smitten a garrison of the Philistines, and that Israel also was had in abomination with the Philistines. And the people were called together after Saul to Gilgal. So Samuel had led a battle and smite the Philistines, right? Let's see, keep reading. We are on verse 6. And the Spirit of Yahweh will come upon thee, and thou shalt prophesy with them, and shalt be turned into another man. All right, it's because when you prophesy, when you're learning this truth, it converts your soul. You actually becoming another man. All right, learning to walk in the spirit rather than in the flesh. So that's how we are as prophets and teachers of Israel. We're learning to be more spiritual than as opposed to being carnal. All right. Let me go to a precept. Go to Numbers 11 and 25. It says, And the Lord came down in a cloud, which is a chariot, so-called UFO, and spake unto him, and took of the spirit that was upon him, and gave it unto the 70 elders. And it came to pass that when the Spirit rested upon them, they prophesied and did not cease. All right, so when this Spirit of the Lord comes on us, well, we're different, like I said, we become more spiritual rather than carnal. And we should not cease. This is this is work that we have to do until the end, enduring to the end, with the Spirit waxing strong on us daily. Let me see. Verse 7. And let it be, when these signs are come unto thee, that thou do as occasion serve thee, for Yahweh is with thee. So you see, this is the occasion right now. We're living in that time where the Spirit is being poured on all flesh, including the Edomites, including the prophets, including the Israelites, including, Jake. You have a lot of people. Elder Tahar just did a video on the Great Awakening of Israel, So this is that Spirit being poured on us, all right? Let's go to Joel real quick for that precept. Joel 2:28. And it shall come to pass afterward that I will pour out my Spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. Your old men shall dream dreams, and your young men shall see visions. And also upon the servants and upon the handmaids in those days will I pour out my Spirit. See, so this is the time where, like I'm referring to Elder Apostle Tahar's video on the Great Awakening. This is all a matter of the Lord putting His Spirit on all flesh, all right? Much like He did in 1 Samuel 10 with Saul, who was anointed as king of Israel, right? He was anointed to be the captain over his inheritance, which was Israel. Verse 7. Let me read it again. And let it be, when these signs are come unto thee, that thou do as occasion serve thee, for Yahweh is with thee. See, so Yahweh is with us when we go out there and prophesy at camp, and we have the Spirit on us. Well, now Yahweh's, with us. So you always have to remember that, Let's go to Exodus for a precept. Exodus 4:8 says, And it shall come to pass, if they will not believe thee, neither hearken to the voice of the first sign, that they will believe the voice of the latter sign. All right? So that's what this is talking about. Israel, they're either going to believe the wicked or they're going to believe the mouth of Yahweh. 1/3 of Israel will listen to the prophets, will believe the truth that we bring out on the streets and on these videos. 2/3 therein will be cut off and die. And you can find that in Zechariah 13:8. But nonetheless, we should not cease from the work that we have been ordained to do. All right, so 1 Samuel chapter 10 and verse 8. It says, And thou shalt go down before me to Gilgal, and behold, I will come down unto thee to offer burnt sacrifices and sacrifices of peace offerings. 7 days shalt thou tarry till I come to thee and show thee what thou shalt do. Alright, verse 9. And it was so that when he had turned his back to go from Samuel, God gave him another heart, and all those signs came to pass that day. See, so and heart means mind in Hebrew. So when we come into this truth, Yahweh has given us a new mind. We have a different mindset. It's not as we were before when we were in the flesh and when we came up in captivity under these false doctrines, right? We have a new mind now, We have a new mindset. All right? verse, let me see, verse 10. And when they came thither to the hill, behold, a company of prophets met him, and the Spirit of Yahweh came upon him, and he prophesied among them. All right, so you see, that's how every man in this truth has their own story on how they, came into the truth, and how they, joined with the brotherhood, and began teaching. We all have our own stories and our own unique testimonies, Verse 11. And it came to pass, when all that knew him before time saw that, behold, he prophesied among the prophets. Then the people said one to another, What is this that is come unto the son of Kish? Is Saul also among the prophets? So you see, people may see you out on the streets that known you in the world, and they're like wondering the same thing, like, who is this? Is this man has got a different mindset now, I myself, people used to tell me they would see me, people that I knew from the world, they would tell me they'd seen me on the street corner, and to them it's a spectacle, it's like you see oftentimes you see people across the street looking at you, like trying to figure out what we're doing, their face looks puzzled, they look astonished, this is John 7:15. And the Jews marveled, saying, How knoweth this man letters, having never learned? See, so people marvel at the fact when they witness the prophets of Israel, it's a spectacle to them. It's an astonishment when these heathen and these two-thirds see the prophets on the street corners in Babylon, America. That a lot of times you have people, come right up to the camp and say, hey, what's going on here? Because this is the time we're in. People are not used to seeing the Spirit being on the flesh of the men of Israel, here in Babylon, America. But it's all because of that great awakening. It's all because the Spirit, our spirits are being breathed life into them, meaning getting the understanding of this truth. Ezekiel 37, the dry bones getting life, all right? So now we stand on our feet, in boldness, teaching this truth, because now we have the understanding and we can't be deceived, all right? Go back to 1 Samuel 10. I'm at 12 now. It says, And one of the same place answered and said, But who is their father? Therefore it became a proverb, Is Saul also among the prophets? Let's precept that in Isaiah 54:13. It says, And all the sons shall be taught of the Yahweh, and the great shall be the peace of thy sons. See? So because of this awakening, because of this, I should say, spiritual awakening, we're standing on our feet, coming into our own, if you will, coming of age, living in that time where the prophets are literally waking up to this truth, Now, let me read that again. And all thy children shall be taught of Yahweh, and shall be great, and great shall be the peace of thy sons. See? So now all Israel is going to be taught this truth. Why? Because you have prophets on the street corners. You have prophets on the internet, all right, on YouTube. Because why? It's a great awakening, right? It's what Vocab Malone and his henchmen. Their goal and their priority is to hinder this truth, hinder this third temple from being built, you know? Because the third temple is the men, right? In the truth. We all represent a lively stone. Let's see. Verse 13. Let me go back to it. It says, "And when he had made an end of prophesying, he came to the high place. And Saul's uncle said unto him, and said to his servant, Whither went ye? And he said, To seek the asses. And when we saw that they were nowhere, we came to Samuel. And Saul's uncle said, Tell me, I pray thee, what Samuel said unto you. And Saul said unto his uncle, He told us plainly that the asses were found, but the matter of the kingdom whereof Samuel spake, he told him not." So he didn't tell him about the prophesying. Verse 17, "And Samuel called the people together unto the Lord to Mizpeh. And he said unto the sons of Israel, Thus saith Yahweh, thy power of Israel, I brought up Israel out of Egypt, and delivered you out of the hand of the Egyptians, and out of the hand of all kingdoms, and of them that oppressed you. And ye have this day rejected your power, who himself saved you out of all your adversities and your tribulations. And ye have said unto him, Nay, but set a king over us. Now therefore present yourselves before Yahweh by your tribes and by your thousands." And when Samuel had caused all the tribes of Israel to come near, the tribe of Benjamin was taken. When he had caused the tribe of Benjamin to come near by their families, and the family of Matri was taken, and Saul the son of Kish was taken, and when they sought him, he could not be found. Wherefore they inquired of the Lord further if the man should yet come thither. And Yahweh answered, Behold, he had hid himself among the stuff. And they ran and fetched him thence. And when he stood among the people, he was higher than any of the people from his shoulders and upward. All right. Let's read that again. Because Saul was, he was a tall, Benjaminite. He was a tall brother. It says here that he was basically a whole head taller than everybody else. And he was a prophet. All right. Verse here, read 1, 9, and 2. Samuel. 1 Samuel. "And he had a son whose name was Saul, a choice young man and a goodly. And there was not among the sons of Israel a goodlier person than he. From his shoulders and upward, he was higher than any of the people." All right, so he was tall. Saul was a tall prophet. And then we go to 24. "And Samuel said to all the people, See ye him whom Yahweh hath chosen, and there is none like him among all the people. And all the people shouted and said, God save the king." So really, in this truth, really there's no people like us, man. There's nobody like the man who teaches the Bible. There's no equal, You're talking about, Lord willing, if we're in that if we're the hopeful elect, if we are the elect, then, we're going to be set in order, and we're going to be greater than all of these heathen, these 2/3, greater than the Edomites in the kingdom, And why? Because we're out here doing the work of Yahweh. There's nothing better on the planet Earth than doing the work of Yahweh, right? It's going to be a defense to us in the day of preparation, the day of destruction. It's going to be our salvation on the day of preparation and the day of destruction, right? these heathen, these 2/3 are not going to receive salvation. You know, they're not going to receive the same spiritual powers that an elect man will receive, right? So literally, this is the best thing on the planet Earth, man. And that's what we have to remind ourselves, you know, when we're doing this work, when you may not want to go to camp, you may not want to do your videos. Well, you got to remember why you're doing it, you know. Let's see, verse 25. Then Samuel told the people the manner of the kingdom, and wrote it in a book, and laid it up before the Lord. And Samuel sent all the people away, every man to his house. See, so that's what we're doing. We're telling Israel the manner of the kingdom. You know, Samuel wrote it in the book. All of the prophets, you know, had written, documented, and published this truth, this understanding, this Bible. You know, it was always published by the prophets, and it was commanded by Yahweh for them to document it, write it in a book. All right. Verse 26. And Saul also went home to Gibeah, and there went with him a band of men whose hearts Yahweh had touched. All right. So there were other men who basically, like I said, heart is mind. Their minds were touched, their minds were changed. You know, because when you get into this, when you come into this truth, you like I said, you have a different mindset, man. No longer are you, you know, you see things for what they really are. You know, you're not gonna sit there and pray for your enemy, who are not your brethren. You know, you're not gonna sit there. You're gonna have a different outlook on the way you see people. You know, you're basically gonna have like a fuck 'em attitude. You don't give a shit what happens to these 2/3 and these heathen, because when you come into this truth, you realize that these people are all fucking reprobates, man. They're, you know, even if they have a zeal toward God, it's not according to knowledge. So you see all the false doctrines and the madness that they're under, and your mindset is like, fuck these people. You know, you become offended when you know and understand the truth. All right. Verse 27. But the children of Belial said, how shall this man save us? And they despised him and brought him no presents, but he held his peace. All right. So that's the other part of this truth.